Hey everybody. As you see, I got in character for tonight's discussion. We're going to talk about embracing change. You have to surrender if you want things to be different. So, not sure that this whole different look is going to maintain. I kind of already missed the goatee, but I do like the fact that it kind of shows my glow. And it's funny because this week at Bible study, we were talking about when Moses went up to talk to God and where he was in God's presence for so long where they were speaking, it put a glow and he had to put a veil, over his face. And it's time to take the veil off. Yeah. It was really interesting. I thought of something earlier that I didn't mention. The other day I had an appointment, with my cardiologist to check out the heart, and everything was great. Everything's going well. All right, before I tell the cardiologist story, last week when my ex was over and we were talking, well, I was talking, she was bullshitting. I remember saying like, hey, this last time when you broke me, and this is how I put it, when I put myself back together, I did something really different. It was almost like I gave myself a spine transplant. Like literally, like my back used to always bother me. Because I had years of labor work. And now it's like I hold myself a little straighter. And I know she didn't care for that. I don't think she was taking me seriously, but it's the truth. I mean, I am transformed. I am completely different than I used to be. And when I went to the cardiologist the other day, they had to do the whole, weight, which I'm doing good on the weight loss. I'm not doing fantastic, but I'm in the right direction. I am taking much better care of myself. And I remember the nurse asking me for my height, and I, told her my height, 5'7". And she like gave me this really strange look and paused a moment, and then she goes, I would have guessed you were taller than that. And it kind of struck me as strange, but it stands out like I really am carrying myself differently. And I love it. It is fantastic. I've spent the last few years being this anxiety-ridden mess from everything I was going through, and now I'm free, and I get to be the real me again, and I'm loving it. I'm starting to feel some of the joy come back in. I'm not there yet to where I used to be, but I'm definitely feeling it creep back in. That just excitement, that happiness to be alive, and considering everything I've been through, I never thought I'd feel like this again, and I'm very thankful, very blessed for it. I'm very grateful to God for the transformation. I know I had to put in my effort to make it happen, and I have to continue it. If I want to maintain it, I got to keep it going. But yeah, don't be afraid to try something different, especially if you were in a situation like me. Like that's what this whole shave thing is about. My ex hated me to be clean shaven. And now that I understand more about the dynamics of the relationship, I understand the things she didn't like were what was good for me, and the things that she pushed were the things that were bad for me. So now I'm trying a different look, and we'll see how it plays out. But I feel more comfortable now. And that's my way of breaking free, of breaking the spell. Every day, some days are better than others. But again, it's resisting that programming that she's been putting into me the last 11 years. And it's working. So that's, going to be the focus. I got a couple invitations to go do a few different activities this weekend. I'm going to go. And I'm going to show up as my new self. And I'm going to use my discernment and repair some old connections, because that's where the invitations came from. People that I, broke contact with because of the influence of my ex. And I'm going to go make sure I have a good time. I'm tired of living, chained back and anchored. I wasn't meant to be that way. But if I got to be that, old self, that anxious ridden, that, puddle on the floor, then I would not have the strength or the courage to embrace this change. I would want to stay stuck like I was before. Again, that was mirroring her energy. She wanted to be stuck where she was. I didn't, but I fed into that. I gave up my own identity to be what she wanted. And that was, very closely to my downfall. So now I have to fight against that and reclaim myself. And that's what I'm doing. I do have a couple choices to make about some things this weekend. I may or may not make it to my regular church. I did get invited to do something else Sunday, and it would conflict with the schedule. But I'm still weighing it. I haven't responded yes exactly that I'm going. Because again, I know the church is important, and I know that I enjoy it. It's not like they're trying to distract me from it. It's just the timing of what they wanted to invite me to. But it's funny. I went from a few months ago to having such limited options. And, I had this limiting friend group that kept me stuck. Like, the only time they nudged me was to go do things that didn't align with what I was supposed to become, what I am now. Other than that, there wasn't much encouragement. And, the last few weeks I've been sitting around bummed that I've been alone. But, just yesterday I had a good friend come over and visit just to talk. And it was a real friendship. It was somebody with mutual respect. We shared our opinions and thoughts with each other. And I think we were able to help each other. And that's, again, the kind of relationships that I am pursuing now. Friendships like that. And if you can't bring that to the table, I am not interested. But again, you have to be brave enough to accept the change. You have to be willing to let go of the things that chained you down in the past and open your arms to the future. A lot of us, when we've been hurt or burned by the past, we tend to try to shrink a little because we're unsure of ourselves. And in your healing process, you have to let that go. Do not let somebody else's lack of awareness of your worth dictate to you your value. I'm not sitting here saying I'm king shit, but I know I'm better than I was treated by a lot. And now I refuse to accept less. Again, I'm done. I'm not looking back. I've got way too much to look forward to in my future to be stuck in the past. That was my problem. That was one of the lessons I had to overcome. I mean, I stayed in the past a lot because I had a lot of work to do. I had to be there to correct things. But that time passed. I did the work there that needed to be done. And now I can be more present in the present. I don't have to be as stuck in my head as I was. I can move on from that because, again, I completed the mission. I did the work. And now I just have to be observant and continue to grow in this journey and strengthen my faith, my relationship with God. I have to strengthen my discipline and keep focusing on the things that are good for me instead of losing myself in the things that were bad for me. Again, repetition, but I'm reprogramming myself. If it doesn't help me grow, glow, or flow, it's a no. And if it doesn't evolve me, it doesn't involve me. Period. I am living with intent. And my intent is to live my absolute best life, to step into my purpose, to fulfill what I am here to do, and to love every second of it. And I am not going to let anyone take that away from me again. Because the only way to lose it, the only way to lose your self-respect is if you give it away. Nobody can take that from you. You have to willingly give it away. And the great thing is if you were tricked into giving it away, it's very easy to get it back. All you got to do is claim it back. Latch on and snatch back. No matter who took it from you, it is not theirs. They can't keep it. I definitely have been sleeping on myself in the last few years. And I had to give myself some grace for that. I had to forgive myself for what I did to myself. And again, that's part of the process. You can't do better until you know better. So don't, take accountability, but don't use it to beat yourself over the head with it. That's not what it's for. That's, what helps you create the change that you need to make is that accountability. It is not about punishment. Guilt and shame are indicators for change. They're not something you're meant to hold on to. You shouldn't be carrying those things with you. Whatever it is, they're an indicator of is what you remember the one I said about going into the darkness and diving in? That's part of that process. All those, past hurts, whether they're hurts that happen to you or hurts you caused to others, because you got to factor that in. You cannot become a new creature if you are sticking to the same old cycles. You have to make change. It has to be different. They one of my favorite quotes is, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what I was doing. That's how I was living before. I kept doing the same things, and I expected it to change. And then finally, her and I had that argument, and I realized change wasn't coming unless I did it. So I did. It wasn't the way I wanted things to go, but I'm glad they went that way because the results absolutely speak for themselves. And despite, the pain and the heartbreak I've been through, with this, again, I don't regret it. I wouldn't change it. It is the one thing that I am thankful to my ex for. Because if she hadn't messed around and played the games that she did with me, I would have probably never had that realization that the only way I was going to get poured into was if I poured into my own cup. When I realized that I was never going to get reciprocation from her, I yanked my cup back and started pouring into myself. And that was what, the catalyst for this transformation. And it was probably one of the best moves I ever made. So yeah, again, the whole point of this one is don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to try something different. Just use your discernment, right? Because you can't just automatically think like, hey, just because it's different, it's good. Like that's one of the mistakes that's fallen on the world right now. A lot of people don't like the old ways, and they think if they just do the complete opposite, it'll get better, and that's not working either. So you gotta, again, you gotta hone your discernment. Everything is nuanced. You gotta let go of that binary black and white thinking. Because that's what messes a lot of us up in life. We make wrong choices because we stick to that thinking instead of looking each situation as a case-by-case basis. And we're getting close, so I'm going to cut this one and try and actually keep it on time tonight. But as usual, take care of yourself. Try and keep taking care of each other. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.